great. Dad's laughing.
Okay, I say strike now. But remember, my future as a man depends on this.
Remember when your favorite 90s TV character would just vanish into thin air like they had entered the witness protection program? One episode, they're at the family dinner table cracking jokes. The next, they've disappeared completely, and nobody even bothers to ask where they went. Not even a, hey, where's Karen, or whatever happened to Minkus. Just silence and a collective agreement to pretend they never existed. Today, we're counting down 11 90s TV characters who disappeared so thoroughly you'd think they owed someone money. Minkus Boy Meets. World landing at number 11 is Stuart Minkus from Boy Meets World, the nerdy rival who haunted Cory Matthews through season 1, before vanishing into what we can only assume was a very deep locker. Boy Meets World premiered on ABC in 1993, following Cory Matthews and his best friend Sean Hunter, as they navigated middle school, high school, and eventually college. The show was part of ABC's legendary TGIF lineup, sandwiched between Step by Step and Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. It had everything: Mr. Feeney's wisdom, Topanga's hair evolution, and Eric Matthews slowly transforming from cool older brother to complete goofball. In season 1, Minkus was everywhere, played by Lee Norris. He was the stereotypical nerd, complete with thick glasses, nasal voice, and unrequited crush on Topanga. He competed with Cory in class, served as comic relief, and basically filled the annoying smart kid role that every 90s sitcom apparently required by law. Then season 2 rolled around, and Minkus was just gone. No explanation, no goodbye, not even a passing mention. It was like the show had collective amnesia. The writers basically hit the delete button and hoped nobody would notice. Spoiler alert, everyone noticed. The strangest part, when Minkus finally returned for a guest appearance in season 5's graduation episode, the show actually acknowledged his absence with a meta joke. Minkus explains he's been attending classes on the other side of the school, the side we never see. Cory asks if there were other students over there, and Minkus responds, "Yeah, there was another whole group of people over there. You've never seen them before." The camera then pans to show characters we'd never seen, including someone who looks suspiciously like a background character. It was the show basically winking at the audience and saying, "Yeah, we know, we messed up." Lee Norris bounced back just fine though, landing the role of Mouth McFadden on One Tree Hill, proving that disappearing from one successful show doesn't mean you can't show up on another one years later. Lisa Turtle, Saved by the Bell, The College Years. Coming in at number 10 is Lisa Turtle's mysterious near absence from Saved by the Bell, The College Years, a disappearance that left fans wondering if she'd transferred to a different university or just decided college wasn't worth the hairspray budget. Saved by the Bell ran from 1989 to 1993, defining Saturday morning television for an entire generation. Lisa Turtle, played by Lark Voorhees, was the fashion-obsessed rich girl who brought style and sass to Bayside High. She was part of the core six, as essential to the show as Zach's schemes, or Screech's awkwardness. So, when NBC launched Saved by the Bell, The College Years, in 1993, fans expected the whole gang to make the jump to California University. Instead, we got Zach, Slater, and Screech as roommates, Kelly Kapowski joining mid-season, and Jesse and Lisa nowhere to be found. Well, Lisa technically appeared in a handful of episodes, but we're talking maybe 3 or 4 guest spots total. For a main character, that's basically a disappearing act. What happened? Behind the scenes, there were reported contract disputes and scheduling conflicts. Voorhees allegedly wanted to pursue other opportunities and wasn't interested in committing to another full series. The show tried to explain her absence by saying she was attending a different college, which is the sitcom equivalent of "My girlfriend goes to another school, you wouldn't know her." The College Years itself only lasted 1 season before NBC pulled the plug, proving that sometimes you can't just transplant characters to a new setting and expect the magic to follow. It's like trying to recreate your favorite restaurant dish at home. The ingredients might be the same, but something's definitely off. Voorhees continued acting throughout the 90s, appearing in various television shows and movies. She returned for the Saved by the Bell, Wedding in Las Vegas TV movie, giving Lisa the send-off she deserved. but her near absence from the college years remains one of those weird 90s TV decisions that left fans scratching their heads and wondering why they bothered making a spin-off if they weren't going to include the whole crew. Morgan Matthews, Boy Meets World. At number 9, we're heading back to Boy Meets World for one of the most blatant character disappearances in 90s sitcom history. Meet Morgan Matthews, or rather, don't meet her, because she straight up vanished for an entire season. Morgan was the younger sister of Corey and Eric Matthews, the cute kid who occasionally popped up to deliver a punchline or remind viewers that, yes, the Matthews family had a daughter. She was played by Lily Nixay in seasons 1 and 2, appearing regularly enough that audiences knew she existed. Then season 3 happened, and Morgan was gone. Not reduced in screen time, not away at camp, just completely absent. The show didn't even bother explaining where she went. One day she's living in the Matthews household, the next she's been erased from existence like a TV character in the Witness Protection Program. The disappearance was so obvious that when Morgan returned in season 4, now played by Lindsay Ridgway, the show couldn't resist making a joke about it. In her first scene back, Morgan walks through the door and deadpans. That was the longest timeout I ever had. It's the kind of meta humor that acknowledges the elephant in the room while also basically admitting, yeah, we have no real explanation for this. Why did Lily Nixay leave? Reports vary, but most sources point to the classic creative differences excuse that Hollywood loves to use. Translation: somebody wasn't happy with something. Whether it was the actress, her parents, or the producers, we may never know. What we do know is that Boy Meets World decided the best course of action was to pretend Morgan never existed for an entire season before recasting and bringing her back like nothing happened. Lindsay Ridgway, the new Morgan, actually did a solid job with the role. She brought more sass and personality to the character, turning Morgan from generic little sister into a scene stealer with actual comedic timing. She stayed with the show through its final season in 2000, proving she was the right choice for the recast. But that missing season remains one of the strangest decisions in Boy Meets World history. A show that prided itself on family values and life lessons apparently thought it was totally normal for a family to just temporarily misplace their daughter. Imagine if your parents forgot you existed for a year. That's some therapy-worthy trauma right there. Harriet Winslow, Family Matters. Sliding into the number 8 spot is Harriet Winslow's departure from Family Matters, a character exit that left one of the 90s most popular sitcoms without its matriarch during its final season. Family Matters premiered in 1989 as a spin-off of Perfect Strangers and quickly became one of ABC's most successful sitcoms. Jo Marie Payton played Harriet Winslow, the strong-willed elevator operator turned security guard who held her family together with tough love and common sense. She was the heart of the show, the straight woman to everyone else's antics. But by season 9, the show had transformed from a family sitcom into the Steve Urkel science fiction hour, and Payton had had enough. After 8 seasons of watching her character get pushed to the background, while a suspender-wearing nerd took over her show, she decided to exit stage left. The official story was that Payton wanted to spend more time with her family and pursue other opportunities. The unofficial story, based on various interviews over the years, suggests she was frustrated with the show's direction and the diminished role of the Winslow family in favor of Urkel-centric plots involving clones and time machines and transformation chambers. The show handled her departure in the most bizarre way possible. They barely handled it at all. Harriet simply wasn't in most of season 9 episodes. When her absence was addressed, the show claimed she was taking care of her mother or was away on business. No big farewell episode, no emotional goodbye scene. She just faded away like a character in a bad dream. Payton did appear in a few episodes that final season, fulfilling her contract obligations, but her presence was minimal. The Winslow household felt empty without its foundation, like trying to run a restaurant without a head chef. The supporting characters couldn't carry the weight. Family Matters was canceled after season 9, ending a decade-long run in 1998. Many fans attribute the cancellation in part to Payton's absence, arguing that without Harriet Winslow grounding the show, it lost its way completely. Jo Marie Payton continued working steadily after Family Matters, doing voice work and television appearances. She's best known to younger audiences as the voice of Sugar Mama on The Proud Family. But her departure from Family Matters remains a reminder that even the most successful sitcoms can fall apart when they lose sight of what made them special in the first place. Lorie Foreman, That 70s Show. Coming in at number 7 is Lorie Foreman from That 70s Show, whose disappearance mid-series was less mysterious TV magic and more real-world tragedy. That 70s Show premiered on Fox in 1998, bringing bell-bottoms and basement hangouts to a generation that was currently obsessed with cargo pants and instant messaging. Lisa Robin Kelly played Lorie Foreman, the Foreman family's promiscuous older daughter, who spent most of her time tormenting Eric and making questionable life choices. She was basically the anti-Donna, all manipulation and mean girl energy wrapped in 70s fashion. Kelly appeared regularly through the first 5 seasons, delivering some of the show's most memorable insults and serving as the perfect foil for Eric's adolescent struggles. But behind the scenes, Kelly was battling personal demons that would ultimately lead to her exit from the show. After season 5, Kelly left That 70s Show to address substance abuse issues. The show initially tried to work around her absence, having Lorie appear sparingly in season 6 with various explanations for why she wasn't around much. But it became clear that Kelly wouldn't be returning full-time. In a controversial decision, the show recast the role with Christina Moore for season 6. Moore did her best with an impossible situation, but fans rejected the new Lorie immediately. It wasn't Moore's fault. She was a talented actress trying to fill shoes that didn't fit. You can't just swap out a character who'd been on the show for 5 years and expect viewers to accept it like nothing happened. By season 8, Lorie was written off entirely, with the show explaining that she'd run off to Canada. No elaborate send-off, no big storyline, just a few throwaway lines about her being gone. The character who'd been such a significant part of the show's early years simply ceased to exist. The real tragedy is what happened to Lisa Robin Kelly after That 70s Show. She struggled with addiction for years, had multiple run-ins with law enforcement, and sadly passed away in 2013 at the age of 43 while in a treatment facility. Christina Moore continued her acting career, appearing in shows like Mad TV and Hawthorne. But Lorie Foreman's story remains one of the sadder character disappearances in 90s television, a reminder that sometimes behind-the-scenes struggles are far more serious than sitcom plot points. Rachel Green's Sisters. Friends at number 6. We're talking about the Green sisters from Friends, 2 characters played by legitimate Hollywood stars who appeared, made an impact, and then vanished like they'd never existed in the first place. Friends needs no introduction. From 1994 to 2004, it dominated Thursday nights and turned coffee shops into cultural destinations. Rachel Green, played by Jennifer Aniston, was one of the 6 core characters, a spoiled rich girl turned independent woman who worked her way up from waitress to fashion executive. Throughout the series, Rachel occasionally mentioned her sisters, Amy and Jill Green. These weren't minor characters played by unknowns. Jill was played by Reese Witherspoon in season 6, fresh off her success in Election and Cruel Intentions. Amy was played by Christina Applegate in seasons 9 and 10, already famous from Married with Children, and about to become even more famous with Anchorman. Witherspoon's Jill appeared in 2 episodes in 2000, playing the spoiled younger sister who shows up in New York trying to prove she can make it on her own. She briefly dates Ross, causes drama, and then disappears completely. No follow-up episodes, no mention of her character again. It's like she evaporated. Applegate's Amy fared slightly better, appearing in 2 episodes during the show's final seasons. She played the even more spoiled sister, who tries to steal Ross away from Rachel, and accidentally gets her niece Emma's ears pierced. Applegate actually won an Emmy for the role, proving she crushed it despite limited screen time. So, why did these characters never return, despite being played by A-list talent and having solid chemistry with the cast? The simple answer: scheduling conflicts and the nature of guest appearances. Both actresses were pursuing film careers and couldn't commit to recurring roles. The show wrote them in for sweeps periods, got their ratings boost, and moved on. but it created a weird situation where Rachel supposedly had these two sisters who lived in the same general area, and yet they never appeared at major life events. Neither sister showed up for Rachel's wedding to Ross in the series finale. They didn't visit when Emma was born. They just existed in this weird limbo, mentioned occasionally, but never seen again. Witherspoon and Applegate both went on to massive careers, winning Oscars and Emmys respectively. But the Green sisters remain a strange footnote in Friends history, proof that even show with everything going for it couldn't always bring back guest stars for proper follow-up. Karen Arnold, The Wonder Years. Coming in at number 5 is Karen Arnold from The Wonder Years, the older sister who went from regular character to occasional background presence faster than you could say hippie phase. The Wonder Years premiered on ABC in 1988 and ran through 1993, giving us one of the most nostalgic, heartfelt, coming-of-age shows in television history. The show followed Kevin Arnold navigating adolescence in the late 60s and early 70s, with Daniel Stern's nostalgic narration providing the emotional core. Karen Arnold, played by Olivia d'Abo, was Kevin's rebellious older sister who represented the counterculture movement of the era. She fought with their conservative father, Jack, protested the Vietnam War, and eventually ran off with her boyfriend Michael to live in a commune. She was a significant character in the early seasons, providing contrast to Kevin's more conventional suburban life. But as the series progressed, Karen appeared less and less frequently. By seasons 4 and 5, she'd mostly vanished, appearing in maybe a handful of episodes. When she did show up, it was usually for major family events or holiday episodes. The show explained her absence by having her living in her commune or traveling, but the real reason was more practical. Olivia d'Abo was pursuing other opportunities, including film roles, and eventually landing a starring role on the Wonder Years lead-out show, The Torkelsons. She was also dealing with the standard child actor problem of aging out of a role. Karen was supposed to be a teenager in the show's late 60s timeline, but d'Abo was in her 20s by the time the series ended. The show didn't completely write Karen off, which makes her situation different from some other entries on this list. She still existed in the Arnold family universe. She just wasn't around much, like that cousin who moved across the country and only shows up for Thanksgiving. d'Abo went on to have a successful career, doing voice work for shows like Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Justice League Unlimited. She's probably best known to genre fans as the voice of Jane Porter in the Legend of Tarzan animated series. But Karen Arnold's gradual disappearance from the Wonder Years represents a particular type of character exit, the slow fade. No dramatic exit, no explanation, just less and less screen time until viewers almost forget the character was ever a regular in the first place. Mandy Hampton, The West Wing. At number 4, we're jumping to the end of the 90s with Mandy Hampton from The West Wing, a character who disappeared so completely the show's fans literally coined the term Mandyville to describe where forgotten characters go to die. The West Wing premiered on NBC in September of 1999, bringing Aaron Sorkin's rapid-fire dialogue and idealistic view of politics to prime time. Moira Kelly played Mandy Hampton, a political consultant and former White House staffer who worked as a campaign media advisor. She was positioned as a major character in Season 1, appearing in the opening credits and featured in multiple episodes. But something wasn't working. Kelly's character never quite clicked with the ensemble. Mandy was supposed to be the outsider perspective, the political operative who provided a different viewpoint from the true believers inside the White House. In practice, she felt disconnected from the core group. The chemistry was off. Behind the scenes, there were reported tensions about the character's direction. Aaron Sorkin himself later admitted that he'd never quite figured out what to do with Mandy. She was meant to be Sam Seaborn's ex-girlfriend and a source of romantic tension, but that storyline fizzled. She was supposed to provide political expertise, but the show already had plenty of that, with characters like Toby Ziegler and Josh Lyman. By the end of Season 1, Mandy Hampton simply disappeared. No farewell episode, no explanation for her absence, not even a line of dialogue mentioning where she went. She appeared in the season finale, attending a congressional ball, and then she was just gone. The show moved into Season 2 without her, and she was never mentioned again. The West Wing went on to win multiple Emmy Awards and become one of the most acclaimed dramas of its era, running for 7 seasons through 2006. Kelly's departure ended up being a blessing for the show, allowing it to focus on the core ensemble and new characters like Ainsley Hayes and Amy Gardner, who fit better into the world Sorkin was building. Moira Kelly continued working steadily in television and film, and is probably best known now for playing Karen Rowe on One Tree Hill. But Mandy Hampton lives on in TV history, as the character so thoroughly erased that her name became synonymous with unexplained character disappearances. When a character on any show vanishes without explanation, fans now say they've been sent to Mandyville. Denise Huxtable, A Different World. Claiming the number 3 spot is Denise Huxtable's complicated journey through the television universe, a character exit that involved pregnancy, controversy, and one of the most awkward returns in sitcom history. Let's back up. The Cosby Show was the king of 80s television, and Lisa Bonet's Denise Huxtable was one of its breakout stars. The free-spirited, fashion-forward second daughter became so popular that NBC gave her a spin-off, A Different World, which premiered in 1987 following Denise's adventures at the fictional Hillman College. The spin-off started strong, but behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Bonet, who was in her late teens when A Different World began, was growing up fast. During the show's first season, she became pregnant by her then-boyfriend Lenny Kravitz. She also appeared in the controversial film Angel Heart, which featured graphic content that clashed with her wholesome TV image. NBC and Bill Cosby were reportedly not happy. After just one season of A Different World, Bonet was fired from her own spin-off. The official explanation was creative differences. The real explanation was a combination of her pregnancy, the Angel Heart controversy, and growing tensions with the show's producers. A Different World continued without its star, bringing in new characters and eventually becoming an even bigger success than it had been with Denise. Whitley Gilbert and Dwayne Wayne became the show's central couple, and A Different World evolved into a groundbreaking series about black college life that tackled serious social issues. Meanwhile, Denise Huxtable returned to The Cosby Show in 1988 for season 5, now married to Martin Kendall and stepmom to his daughter, Olivia. But her return was awkward. The character who'd been too wild and free-spirited for college was suddenly a wife and mother. The fit was uncomfortable, and Bonet's screen time was limited. By The Cosby Show's final seasons, Denise was barely around, ostensibly living overseas with Martin, who was stationed in Singapore. When she did appear, the magic that had made her a breakout character in the first place was gone. She'd been domesticated in the worst way, stripped of the personality that had made her special. Bonet officially left The Cosby Show again in 1991, before the series ended in 1992. Her relationship with Bill Cosby remained strained for decades, with both parties rarely speaking about each other publicly. Lisa Bonet continued acting after The Cosby Show, appearing in films and television shows throughout the 90s and beyond. She's experienced a career resurgence in recent years, with roles in shows like Ray Donovan and films like the recent Mad Max installments. But Denise Huxtable's journey remains one of the messiest character arcs in 90s television, a cautionary tale about what happens when real life collides with sitcom fantasy. Steve Urkel's parents, Family Matters. At number 2, we're returning to Family Matters for one of the strangest disappearing acts in the entire series, Steve Urkel's parents, who appeared just enough times to establish they existed before vanishing into the television void. We've already talked about Harriet Winslow's exit from Family Matters, but the Urkel family disappearance is arguably weirder because it happened gradually over multiple seasons, while Steve himself became the show's central character. When Steve Urkel first appeared on Family Matters in the show's first season in 1989, he was supposed to be a one-time character. Jaleel White played him so brilliantly that Steve became a pop culture phenomenon, appearing on everything from lunchboxes to dolls. By season 2, Steve had effectively taken over the show. But as Steve's presence grew, his family life remained a mystery. The show occasionally referenced his parents, and they appeared in a few early episodes. His father Herb, played by Joe Wright, and his mother Diane, played by Judy Ann Elder, showed up just enough to establish that, yes, Steve had parents, and yes, they were ashamed of their nerdy son. Then they just stopped appearing. As the show progressed, and Steve spent more and more time at the Winslow house, the question became obvious. Where were the Urkels? Steve was constantly at the Winslow household, eating their food, breaking their possessions, and basically living there rent-free. His parents were never seen or mentioned, The show half-heartedly tried to explain this away by having Steve reference that his parents traveled a lot for work, leaving him home alone most of the time. But that explanation gets more disturbing the longer you think about it. Steve Urkel, a minor, was essentially abandoned by his parents who couldn't stand being around him. That's not sitcom humor. That's a case for social services. What makes this even stranger is that Family Matters was supposedly about family values, yet it normalized a situation where a child was basically neglected by his biological family and had to seek love and acceptance from his neighbors. The show never addressed the dark implications of this setup, instead playing it for laughs. As Family Matters became the Steve Urkel show in all but name, the Winslow family transformed into Steve's surrogate family. Carl grudgingly accepted him, Harriet mothered him, and Laura reluctantly became the object of his affection. The Urkels became irrelevant to the show's universe. The disappearance of Steve's parents allowed the show to avoid dealing with any real family dynamics for its main character. Steve became a cartoon character rather than a fully realized person, which worked for the show's increasingly goofy tone but represented a bizarre creative choice. You created the most popular character on television and then decided his family didn't matter enough to ever show them again. The entire base family, step by step. And claiming our #1 spot is the most egregious character disappearance in 90s sitcom history. The entire Bass family from Step by Step, a show that decided 3 kids were too many and simply deleted a whole family branch, like it was trimming a dead branch from a tree. Step by Step premiered on ABC in 1991 as part of the legendary TGIF lineup, following the blended family adventures of the Lambert and Foster clans. Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers played Frank Lambert and Carol Foster, who met on vacation in Jamaica, fell in love, and decided to merge their families. Frank had 3 kids, JT, Al, and Brendan. Carol had 3 kids, Dana, Karen, and Mark. The early seasons included another family, Carol's sister and brother-in-law, Penny and Cody, played by Maria Patillo and Lyle Wagoner, along with their son Griffin. This was Carol's sister's family, living nearby and appearing regularly in episodes. They provided additional storylines and conflicts, expanding the show's universe beyond the immediate household. Then season 2 happened and the Bass family just vanished. Not reduced in appearances, not written off with an explanation, just completely gone. Penny, Cody, and Griffin ceased to exist in the Step by Step universe. The show never mentioned them again, never explained where they went, and acted like Carol's sister had never existed in the first place. This wasn't a case of a single character disappearing. This was an entire family unit being erased from the show's continuity. Imagine if your aunt, uncle, and cousin suddenly stopped existing, and nobody in your family thought it was weird enough to mention. That's what Step by Step did. Behind the scenes, the decision was supposedly made to streamline the cast and focus on the core blended family. The show was already juggling 9 main characters between the 2 households, and adding 3 more was apparently too much. But the execution was sloppy. The writers could have at least thrown in a line about the Bass family moving away, or explained their absence somehow. Step by Step continued for 7 seasons through 1998, outlasting most of its TGIF companions. The show evolved over time, adding characters like Cody Lambert, the dim-witted nephew played by Sasha Mitchell, who moved into the van in the driveway and essentially replaced the missing Bass family in terms of providing additional comic relief. The series is remembered fondly by 90s kids as a comfort food television, the kind of show you watched while eating pizza bagels and waiting for Boy Meets World to come on. But the disappearance of the Bass family remains one of those bizarre decisions that makes you wonder what the writers were thinking. Maria Patillo went on to star in the 1998 Godzilla movie, while Lyle Wagoner had already been famous for The Carol Burnett Show in the 70s and basically retired after Step by Step. But their characters and their fictional son remain the gold standard for unexplained family disappearances in 90s television. Proof that sometimes the best way to handle too many characters is apparently to pretend they never existed. And there you have it, 11 character disappearances from 90s television that left us with more questions than answers. From Steve Urkel's missing parents to entire families being deleted from existence, the 90s proved that TV writers had no problem hitting the erase button when things weren't working out.